My name is Jackson, and today I'll be talking about the role of women in the French Revolution. When people talk about the French Revolution, they are usually referring to the March on Versailles or the storming of the Bastille, both of which took place in 1789. But the French Revolution was actually a series of uprisings that took place in the time period of 1789 to 1799. The revolution eventually overthrew the monarchy, established a republic, caused violent periods of political turmoil, and finally culminated in a dictatorship under Napoleon. Women played a very significant role in the revolution, in militant and non-militant ways, despite having fewer rights than men. Throughout the time period, women won various rights and freedoms, like the right to inherit and to divorce. They also lost those same freedoms and were forced to re-win them. In these struggles, women in France laid the groundwork for modern feminism. Women in France finally won the right to vote in 1946, 26 years after women in the United States. Women in pre-revolutionary France were considered inferior to men in many ways. They were subordinate to their husbands and had fewer rights, despite the fact that women worked and their work was necessary. Women were homemakers and were expected to stay home and take care of the house and kids. In addition to working at home, they worked on the farm and in local trade. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was a philosopher of the Age of Enlightenment who had a significant role over the way people thought at the time. Rousseau said that women didn't need to be educated, only men did. He felt that women needed to be confined to the home so they didn't influence the men. The causes of the revolution were very numerous and complex. These are only a few. Before the revolution, France was in financial debt, which was made worse by their involvement in the American Revolution. There was social inequality too. Peasants were taxed while nobility paid hardly any at all. This caused the suspicion of the monarchy that they were sympathetic to the commoners, to the nobility, and not to the commoners. The food shortages in France made the situation worse. The bad harvests made grains scarce, which led to a shortage of affordable bread. Eventually, the bread shortages led to a defining moment in the revolution, the March on Versailles. At the time, the royal family was living in Versailles, and the people were suspicious. The March on Versailles started when a group of women demanding bread gathered in the streets of Paris, hoping to get King Louis XVI's attention. The crowd grew and they raided the city armory for weapons. They marched 15 miles through the pouring rain from Paris to Versailles. After killing 2 of the king's bodyguards, they brought the royal family back to Paris, where they had to live under house arrest. Women also influenced the revolution in non-militant ways. For example, women formed clubs or salons where they would discuss social issues, political issues, and publish pamphlets about their ideas. Many of these activists were punished, and some were even publicly executed. One of the prominent female writers of the time was journalist and playwright Ophelia de Guiche. De Guiche was famous for writing the Declaration of the Rights of Women and the Female Citizen. She wrote this in response to the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen, which almost completely left out women. By publishing this document, de Guiche hoped to expose the failure of the revolution in addressing gender inequality. As a result of her actions, in 1793, she was prosecuted for treason and executed in November that year. Madonna Mulan was another important female activist who focused on politics, not specifically women's rights. She was considered a feminist because she was a female working to influence the world. Mulan also hosted gatherings of a political group which women were allowed to join, but she was later convicted of treason. And when she was led to the scaffold, she shouted, "O liberty, what crimes are committed in thy name?" Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun was one of the most famous painters to the king. This is because she was the first female to be painter to the king. Lebrun was appointed because of Marie Antoinette's bad reputation with the people of France. Marie wanted Vigée to depict her as a mother, so people would have sympathy for her. When the revolution started, she fled to Italy because of her association with the royal family. Women asked for equal rights many times during the revolution. In 1791, the first constitution gave women the right to own property, the right to divorce, and the right to inherit. But these rights were withdrawn in a subsequent constitution. More than 90 years later, in 1882, school was made free for both boys and girls. More than 150 years after the revolution, in 1946, French women could finally vote. Now we know that women have been politically active in all revolutions in France. Throughout the revolution, women were able to influence events through both militant and non-militant actions. In the years following the revolution, they continued to influence various revolts and uprisings in France. You may have noticed that many works of art depict women as a symbol of freedom and liberty. One of the most obvious examples of this theme is our own Statue of Liberty, which was given to us by the French. In the French Revolution and beyond, women have lived up to being that symbol of freedom and liberty. Thank you.